Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the TB&J podcast. Across from me is Troy Brittingham.
You're Jeff.
Sure am, and we got D with us today.
D, the triumvirate has returned. We are all here.
D's frequently with us. It's only a more recent thing that D has taken, like leaves of absences. Leaves of absences? I don't know what I had a stroke. Theme song.
Just crazy.
I'm just fucking nuts. Leave me alone. You see, it all started on Mango Street. Before that was Loomis Street. All right, everybody, we saw the new HBO series based on
Velma.
Yes, Velma.
And
I saw Velma. Are we doing Velma?
No.
Okay.
You can't pay me enough to watch Velma.
Really? Why?
I was out like 10 minutes in.
Oh.
None of it hit. It felt like it was trying way too hard to be something it isn't, and it just felt really gross and terrible and schlocky.
But this isn't that podcast.
No, this is The Last of Us from HBO, based on the hit 2013 PlayStation game by Naughty Dog and Neil Druckmann specifically as the writer and director. And Neil Druckmann created the game. He's also the executive producer on the show, which immediately gave me hope for this show. The second thing that gave me hope for this show was fucking Craig Anzin, I believe his name is, as the other producer and the showrunner. He did Chernobyl for HBO, and that was one of the best things in television I've ever seen in years.
That was the documentary about Sonny and Cher.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's it?
Chernobyl. Yep.
Okay, I remember. Did it also give you faith in the show that I wanted to cover it?
It
Yes.
did, because usually whenever anything hints at a video game, D's just like, nah, I'm out, I'm too old and fuddy-duddy for this. I can't do the hip things that kids are doing.
It's my nerd hole.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Excuse me?
It's my geek hole. Like everybody...
That's worse, I feel like.
No,
Everybody's got a geek hole.
A geek hole is like a hole in your geek ensemble.
Yeah, it's an area that people usually associate with geeks that you're not exactly fluent in. For example, my geek hole is like action figures and toys, and specifically the 80s, all that stuff like He-Man, Transformers, all that. Huge geek hole for me. D, that's his fucking bread and butter over there. Like, D fucking loves that shit.
About this in the pub before we compliment actually more,
Yeah.
Anyway, but video games are my probably biggest geek hole.
Yeah, and that's not your fault entirely. It's
just probably the most relevant one because it's like obviously gaming is like a huge culture and a huge influence, and it's actually becoming more and more relevant to like so many forms of culture, including what we're doing now and other forms like just how it's informed media in general, like with what was the movie that came out recently where it's like it was first person point of view, like it was just some
Hardcore Henry?
Yeah, Hardcore Henry. Like I mean, so like all that is there, and we have a scene from this, and how much of Mandalorian is influenced by video game.
It's very true.
Like scenes. So like we are seeing like recreations of kind of that third person view or that first person view in a lot of aspects. So it's definitely influenced it, and not to mention like how many students I'll have that kind of want to follow the storylines of interactive games and role playing games and like online games, and just how much like that is a different form of storytelling. I see students like they just kind of like talking about these characters that they interact. They're all writing it. They're all doing it like interactively, and it just cohorts, and they just kind of continue it. It's almost like how like the kids play on the Sandlot, and they just like they don't keep score. They just kind of keep going and going.
Right.
It's like that, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, all right, yeah, wow, it's a lot, and it's like this different form of escapism. So I'm like, either way, obviously, video games have a huge step in the culture.
Yeah, video games in particular have grossed $180 billion in 2021, and that's more than Hollywood and the music industry combined. And they've been doing that for ages. That's just the only one where I have specific numbers attached to it.
Well, I enjoy this diatribe. We should do thumbs up, thumbs down.
We sure should.
I just thought Geek Hole sounded dirty.
If you're new around here, the way
It
we
can
do
be.
things is everything that we review gets a thumbs up or a thumbs down. For movies, at the end of the podcast, we usually give it a letter grade.
Nah, or with a series if we're going to pick it up.
For TV shows, we usually split the series into a couple chunks. Depending on how long the show is, we usually do like thirds, maybe quarters or halves.
So what does this have, 8?
I believe this is 8, so we can do halves.
Yeah, halves sounds good.
Every 4 we'll give it a letter grade. So this is just going to be
Halvesies.
thumbs for the first 3 episodes. The 4th one will get a letter, and then 5, 6, 7 will get thumbs. 8th will get a letter. And for this one, let's go ahead round table thumbs. Troy, how you feeling about it?
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. D, how you feeling about it?
It's a big thumbs up, man.
It should be no surprise this is a huge fucking thumbs up because as a guy who does love video games, I feel like I'm probably the bigger gamer of you and me, Troy.
Sure, I really only stick to fighting games and Pokemon.
Yeah, and I'm all over the map as far as my
I
gaming.
wanna verify something. No spoilers on this for the game.
Exactly. That's what I wanted to clarify.
Anything that's
Yeah, I as a guy, I didn't play the game, but I did watch it completely all the way through, and I do know the story of The Last of Us Part 2, the sequel game. I will do my very best to keep all that information to myself.
Troy, are you in on this?
I have not played or watched it.
So all
I've-
of this is new to you.
I
So
have seen clips and stuff like that, but I haven't ever done the full game.
So while on this topic, I have anticipated the show for a little bit, so I've heard little bits about it. I mainly about the pathogen, the fungus. Mainly about that. Everybody that I've listened to kind of keeps it mum on this, basically just with the idea of well, don't look into it. Don't.
Yeah, don't.
You find something that you're gonna find. So I'm like, but everyone's beating around the bush. Everyone's doing what they can. But from what I've seen thus far, and what really, I don't know how to put it. Kind of gave me a hint at something was the director after the episode on HBO. They had. Did you guys see this?
Yep, I watched
I
all
did.
of it.
The what stuff he was saying, and then more I thought about it. So I just want to throw this out there. Pure speculation of what I think eventually happens. Now they're going to do the first 2 games. That's what that's what they've said they were going to do.
I believe that's the end game. I don't know how far they're going to take season 1. Because if you play The Last of Us as the video game, it's a good 10 to 15 hours of story.
Okay, so you think that
They could milk the whole first game into the first season if they wanted, or even 2 seasons.
So what I've also heard from whatever is that the guy wants to just kind of be in and out. He doesn't want to elongate. He doesn't want to do things they said to tell this season. It takes 8 episodes. Maybe to take the second season, it takes 15.
Sure.
Or whatever. So or they split that into 2 seasons. But
If HBO gives them that flexibility, I'm all for it, so that they can just tell the story they need to tell and do it in the time frame allotted, instead of pulling a fucking season 8 Game of Thrones thing where it's no, you don't have as long as you want. Yeah, but if HBO gives them all the time and money they want to do things, I'm completely on board with that, because I feel like they learned a hard lesson by wrapping up Game of Thrones the way they did, and they're not going to do that again anytime soon, because they completely murdered that cash cow.
So I think so I have a bold theory, assuming this is full spoilers for this episode.
Full spoilers for this episode, but not for the series at large.
So obviously, if you've if you don't want to go any further at this stage, this is the show. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you after the episode.
It's very
Come back.
good. Pedro's good.
That's the
But at this
theme
point,
song. Thank you so much
No,
to
but-
everybody. No,
But
I'm
think,
kidding.
but think, if you don't want any spoilers, we're get out of here now.
Yeah.
But okay, so this obviously they get through this in the end. By the end of it, which is pretty telegraphed from the beginning, or it's the premise of the show, which is that she holds the cure. So to the pand.
That's the premise for the game as well. That's
Right. It's the back of the box, right? That's the premise. So that's not so whatever. They kind of withhold that full reveal, I guess, until one of the final scenes. But whatever.
This is just standard storytelling first episode stuff.
So my bold theory in terms of where this goes, my guess in the game, based on what I've heard people say about how poignant it is, or how this it is, and how that it is, and what this guy said about love at the end of the game, or at the end of the episode, that it has to be something along the lines of she's not what she appears to be. or that she is she appears to be this cure. The classic twisted storytelling here would be that she's the queen or the next evolution of whatever the fuck they are. So that's my long-term thing, but I have no reason to believe that.
That's a really cool theory.
In the story, I think that would be awesome if he's kind of becomes because they're doing Lone Wolf and Cub, and this is a whole other
Well,
element
Lone Wolf has a sidekick. He's got Tess with him.
Yeah, I'm sure she's dead though.
You think she's not long for this world?
Nah, she can live
Is
on.
that your second bold prediction?
That's like a tepid poll. That's a tepid. that lady's dead. Hey, from the montage footage where of the silhouette of just the two of them, I'm like, yeah, they'll meet a lot of Tesses, quote unquote. is my test guess.
That's your test guess.
That's my test guess.
Speaking of side characters, a note that I want to point out real quick as I was reading through the Wikipedia page for the show, and in the game there is a very well-known voice actor named Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson they voice Joel and Ellie in the game. They have small parts in the show
also
as actors. I'm super excited for that. And then part 2 of that is the woman who does Marlene, the leader of the Fireflies in Boston.
Marlene. I know she's the one from the game.
She is the same lady from the game. It's the exact same woman, the exact same voice. And as soon as I saw her and heard her, I was like, oh my God, no fucking way.
Yeah.
And then I had to look it up on my phone while I was watching it this morning. And I was like, holy shit, no fucking way. It was really, really cool. And it goes to show that they do care a shitload about the source material, which can't be said for a lot of the other adaptations we've seen lately. I'm looking at you, Halo. They had some...
No, he always has sex with women and Cortana watches.
And there's always a human Covenant member. Yeah, totally.
I totally get these references.
How do you feel about the emotional dampening chips, D?
Undecided.
He'll get back to us.
So,
the show was months ago.
Still mulling it through. So...
I mean, you saw Master Chief's ass. That's a lot to take in.
On the subject of voices, I realized during this how much Pedro Pascal, without his what is it? Game of Thrones character. Where's he from?
Oh, he's from Dorne, right?
Yeah,
he's
without his Dornish accent, So the Mandalorian and this, also both just Lone Wolf and Cub. He's
both are just kind of gruff American accents.
Well, this is what I'm saying. He's doing. I realized what he's doing really in both. He's really not spanning far for Mando. He's doing Nathan Fillion's Malcolm Reynolds. It's if you listen to it and just think of it is literally the same.
That's really
correct.
It's really good.
And I always thought it just sounds like Pedro Pascal or it just sounds like Mandalorian. I'm just like, wait a minute, no, it sounds like that. I was like, wait, Mando sounds like that. It's just a little distorted.
You're not wrong at all. Holy shit.
So ridiculous.
I mean...
And it's so dumb. He's literally just doing Malcolm Reynolds.
I'm pretty sure we discussed this on the podcast for Mando, but
I don't think we did.
Wasn't Mal Reynolds an inspiration for the Mando show?
I mean,
maybe,
it has.
But it's I don't think we just
as a fellow Western.
Any more than space Western, but him literally doing that just passed me by until now. I'm just like, no, that's literally what he's doing. He's getting it, the tone and inflection right.
Yeah, it's really good. Now that you pointed out, I'm replaying scenes in my head, and I'm like, holy shit!
And he's really just I love him for all this stuff, but shit, man, if you don't have to just be like, all right, so I'll be Mando, in the zombie apocalypse. Now I'll be Mando in space. Now I'll be Mando. It's just I'm gonna be Mal Reynolds in all these areas.
So what you're saying is that he should get a flamethrower in this show.
Yes. I mean, I don't know what that reference is, but yes.
I'm saying the Mando. It's the only thing he ever uses.
The flame.
He has that flamethrower
wrist flame. Yeah.
No, Joel actually finds a darksaber while they're exploring out Boston.
Is he any better with it? Or?
Nope.
Okay.
Absolute garbage.
So I just thought that was funny that he I noticed that. All right. So what do we like about this show? What do we dislike? What do we note about all this stuff?
I mean, just as a fan of the game, I just have to keep bringing it back and just fucking jizzing all over it. Like, the entire first episode is almost beat for beat the first hour of the game. It's almost exactly the same. They flesh it out a little bit more, and there's a lot more, like, ambient stuff going on instead of just focusing on Joel himself. But, like, holy fucking shit. I was watching a live-action version of The Last of Us so far.
I liked how it's kind of subtle all the way through. It does very much like a Train to Busan kind of thing. So if either of you seen that,
I think I saw that with you.
I don't think so.
No, I didn't. I'm sorry. I think of Bullet Train.
But yeah, but Train to Busan has a whole first like 35 minutes to an hour of just setting up the zombie apocalypse, where it's just like things like cars, like cop cars driving in the background to like locations, and like really setting it all up.
That's
and then
classic zombie stuff. Right?
And then into later on, like them just kind of fleshing out, like, this is what this whole compound's like. This is what the government's like. This is sort of the martial law that
the
they're
world
also
building in the future opening, the 20 years later opening, is really smooth. Everything is very okay.
There's never a scene that I can think of where somebody goes, well, as we all know, the blah 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 does the blah 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 blah.
It gets a little clunky when people are like saying each other's names so that we have names to faces.
But even that
real
bad.
was like over in an instant.
So there's a couple things that are a problem, and apparently they went through a different director or something like that, and they said that this episode is the biggest problem in the batch, and that it has to do with some clunky storytelling. And I think it has to do with when they go from her giving numbers, Ellie giving numbers and saying her name's Veronica, and then skipping over the part where they kind of get to her like being okay, like, so she has a conversation, but it even seems like there's a skip between there and there where they're referencing like Gregory or Riley or something. Was Riley a bad person? Was right, and you're like, we don't know this person. Like I thought at the time, I'm like, okay, they're referencing something that I don't know about. I'll find out about it later. But then afterwards, it seems more like that's irrelevant. Then they jump again with there being some kind of attack, and they're very close now. Like, they're much closer than they should be. Like, she's like, oh, my God, you're injured. And I'm like, I have no idea what happened. Obviously, they were attacked somehow, some way. But there's a lot of dead people. There's no clear indication that it's not the zombie things. It seems to be some kind of, like, local attack. But that's unclear as to how. I didn't question it because it is what it is, and I don't need it. And I appreciate just getting to it and not having to... I get where it's going.
Sure.
Get me there. So... fine, but it was jarring, and I hope that's the...
I can see that. Yeah, that's a valid
criticism. A bit of some weird storytelling there, but the stuff with like for instance the neighbors and that
the
whole
Adlers,
thing, is that in the game?
I don't remember it
because that's like the creepiest. One of the best scenes where you see where she's fiddling with the DVDs, and then she's in the back and it's out of focus. And she's
so that's one of the things I really loved about the show is the whole beginning, like 20 minutes, where they just make you really fall in love with Joel and his daughter just to have her killed. Like, and it's completely unceremoniously. It's really gross. It's bad. Like, she doesn't get like a dramatic like last word or nothing. She dies like panicking and hyperventilating in her father's arms. Yeah, and it fucking broke my heart.
That's a really rough scene. And any scene of this nature, when you have a kid, is just like... I
was going to ask you, how did you feel about the whole Sarah bit?
I mean, it's the same way I feel about most scenes. This is one was particularly, because I was into the episode. I liked her. She did a great job. I kind of knowing the premise, I kind of figured. I didn't know how this went. I didn't think it was her. I kind of got the idea that like so whatever, but it was still incredibly horrifying, and I was just wrapped up in the moment. I wasn't thinking the whole time, oh, she's gonna die in this scene. She's gonna die in this scene.
I was. I'm sorry.
I can see you doing that if you're. But I mean, like, just
I was privy to the knowledge. Though.
Yeah, I. But again, so am I. I get the premise of the show. Like I've read the idea. Like I've heard this. But I haven't experienced it. So It's not on the top of my mind. I'm in the moment, which is the premise. There could be other shows that do this versions of it where I'm just thinking the whole time, oh, she dies right now, right? Like that's about to happen. No, they have me wrapped up in it. So
yeah,
like
you try not to get attached to it because you're like, well, she's gone.
Yeah, no, but they did such a good job. And when like she's dying, like it's all done really well to the point where I'm just like seeing my boy there. I'm just like.
Pedro.
Like, I'm like, I mean, I'm in.
She's your
dying,
actual boy.
I am at, like, I can just see it because it's too much. Like, that can happen at any moment. And, like, by facing it with good acting and stuff like that, you're forced to be like, I know that can happen right now. I know that could be the case right now.
I love that you said that. When the game came out back in 2013, there was a reviewer who wrote a very just stunning, beautiful review about this game. And he was like, I have a kid who's exactly Sarah's age, and the whole beginning of the game, I was just in tears, and I immediately empathized with Joel, and I was immediately in his shoes, and it just took off from there, and it never let up. And he gave the game a 10 out of 10. It's fucking perfect.
It was lucky because I was super wrapped up in the episode up until that point without fail. And then it started to get me out of it because of the rapid sequence of zombie attacking you, you're about to get hit, and bang, it gets killed. Fine. But then that guy is like, wait a minute, where are you going? And then he pulls a gun on him, and he's like, you're going to be dead. And then it's like, oh my God, don't kill me. And it's like, bang, bang, bang. And then he's dead again. And it had like, I literally thought of like, okay, where does this end? Is this like a Simpsons bit where it just keeps going? Or like it's just like, you're just like another guy piles up and he shoots him and he's like, oh my God. He just keeps almost dying.
The timing is borderline comical. Like, you're right.
It happened twice in succession so close that I was like, wait a minute. And then like she's dead. Like so I kind of immediately forgot about it, but it was like right on the brink.
You have to remember though,
being like, come on.
You have to remember though, the beginning was set in Texas. This is just an average day in Texas.
Yeah, it's
a lot of good guys with guns out there.
The good guy with a gun is the only thing that can stop a bad guy with a gun. Am I right, ladies and gentlemen?
Stop a zombie with a gun?
Troy, we need to put the Star Spangled Banner on our sound drop board so that I can just like drop it whenever I say something patriotic like that.
When we go on a 15-minute diatribe about how Harry Potter should have guns or something again.
Yeah. Well, you remember the official stance of the podcast
gun
is that
wands.
the 2020 election
Listen,
was stolen.
the Americans have gun wands. That's all I'm saying.
Gun wands.
Guans.
Guans.
But I really.
What's my hat, Professor? Smith & Wesson. You're in that school. Next.
It's like the Kingsman, but the American version. So the opening, I really wanted to make mention of this. That really was the ultimate conceit premise that they added, I think, to this show, because they did the years like 10 years different than they do in the show or something like that. Like
yeah, so the game starts in 2013, and then it's 20 years later to 2033, and the show is 2003, 20 years later to present day, 2023.
So that opening 5 minutes of the TV show from '68, right? And they do the whole thing, and they do the kind of lead in with, coronavirus pandemic. Yeah, he's like, psh, I'm not afraid of that.
I'm more afraid of funguses.
I'm afraid of funguses. And he's like, psh. And I love this, the initial, like this, the whole First of all, this had a whole vibe of, if you've ever seen Aaron Sorkin's The Newsroom, or at least like the opening scene of it, the premise of like, what's the guy from Dumb and Dumber? Not Jim Carrey, but
Dana. No, not Dana Carvey. Why the fuck did I?
Anyway, Greg Daniels.
I wouldn't say
something
yes.
like
I think Greg Daniels is right.
Okay. That sounds wrong though to me, but either way, he is it has a very similar vibe to that, where it's like, it's actually like Sorkin does a great job of like argumentative breakdowns. Jeff Daniels. Sorry. I knew Greg was right. Jeff Daniels. And he like basically like calls America not the best like country in the world, but it's like this great dialogue written in a talk show format, and it has almost the exact same kind of effect as this. It's really like jarring, but it is in a horror sense. And it's like written really tightly like that, where it's just like this whole thing of like, he sets up, oh, it's not that big of a deal. He's like, we've been winning that war for years. He's like, they kills a million, a couple 10 million of us, but we always win. Viruses, stuff like that doesn't bother me. And he's like, what are you afraid? He's like, fungus. And you get the ant thing, and I knew that part, right? And he's like, you're right. And he's like, but it never. And then there's a retort, but it's never, it's only affected ants. It's never affected humans. He's like, you're right. It can't affect anything above 94 degrees or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is like so close to where we are, right? And you're like, and it's like, but if the world got hotter, and you're like, sort of like, oh, what the fuck?
Yeah. It's like, wait, the science makes sense.
And then I'm like, oh shit, and because then this adds this like horrifying layer of like, okay, this is mixing now with it was crazy enough that it was real. It was a real thing, but. It's like, okay, but it only affects that. That's exactly my thought. But they went through my entire thought process of this and then added another thing that I'm on the same page with of just like, well, it's getting hotter. What if they needed to serve? Interesting. And then, okay, yeah, that's horrifying and scary.
The line of logic makes complete sense, even if the basis in science does not. Even if they're taking certain liberties to make the show happen.
Yeah, like, especially the biggest liberty right there, again, was like the audience reaction at that point was to mimic our present day reaction, and I do not think that it would have registered the way it did with them, because they registered like this like as soon as he says like, well, if it got hotter out, they're like, wait a minute, what? Like they reacted like they knew about global warming. We're like all in, like this is common knowledge, and I don't think in '68 that's even like any single studio audience's reaction. I don't think they're hearing that enough to like make that connection.
I would argue, in support of that point, that the people that are volunteering to sit and watch two scientists talk probably might know about global warming.
Fair point.
Because it looked like it was...
who the hell is watching this show?
It was certainly a sort of like studio kind of setup, but like behind the audience, it looked like the doors in like a lecture hall.
Yeah.
So I thought it might have been like a university.
It was like a 1968 TED Talk.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. I loved how 60s it was. You had like the full carpeting in the studio, and you had the one guy just smoking as he's talking. And I was like, that's
the producer
definitely...
was smoking too in the back.
Yeah, that's definitely...
Just ruining all the equipment.
Old-timey, yeah. Everything's going to smell. You're going to dunk up the equipment.
They should have, on the flip side of that, added one character in the audience like, yeah, like that would ever happen. And all the audience laughs.
This is not a comedy.
Yeah, just, actually in all those old studios, those recordings, it's not static. That's just the sound of smoke. Not many people know that.
All right, this episode was fucking amazing, and I love the time this came out, because didn't Walking Dead just end?
Yeah.
Less than a couple months ago, I think, the last episode aired. And this feels like good survival horror.
Well, here's the thing. My real knowledge of this is like, doesn't this have the reverse... The first trailer for this in the game, I actually remember because it had like the classic song, all around you are familiar faces.
Mad World by Gary Jules.
Mad World, like isn't it that? But like it's the whole scene, the cutscene in reverse, where she like it starts with
that's Dead Island. I think you're thinking of.
Is that something else?
Yeah, that's a different zombie game.
Okay, fair enough.
Which
I really did think
I don't know if you know this. In the game, they don't call them zombies or whatever they're calling them in the show yet. In the game, they're called clickers because they make a clicking noise. to communicate.
I have heard of this.
Yeah.
So, all right, never mind then. I thought that was a show.
Not different game entirely.
Yeah.
I like that you knew that, though, because Dead Island, compared to The Last of Us, is not a very popular game.
Interesting. I just assumed that was...
the trailer was much...
The trailer was widely received as like, this is great. The game came out and people were like, oh, no.
Some people were like,
and then it got a sequel.
Should The Last of Us have had that trailer?
It would have been a better game to have it.
I mean, sure, but Last of Us did just fine without it.
Like, would that trailer have worked for the game? It feels like it would have.
I feel like it works for pretty much any zombie game, to be honest.
Yeah,
it was pretty neat.
Any zombie game, you just put like some dead people and
so the world building is pretty good. Like we said, there was a little jarring in the rest, but they do a real quick job of the whole thing. You're in medias res for the interrogation scene with his girl that I said was not long for this world.
Tess. Yeah. Tess, and then the smuggler guy who double-crossed her, his name was Robert.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also dead now.
Yeah, also
Also
apparently
very
not
dead.
that important.
Yeah, he dies in the game as well, but Joel and Tess are the ones.
So
to do
did
it.
she lie to him? Doesn't she say I really like to fuck him up?
She told Robert whatever he wanted to hear, just that he would let her go. And then she gets back to Joel and she's like, "Yo, Robert double-crossed us, and while it'd be great to go get him, we got to do it quietly because he's going to smell us coming."
And that's a lie because didn't he perish in that explosion?
No, he got away. His goons died. There was like the two 19-year-olds that were next to her, they died. Yeah, Robert got away. Yeah. Because she looks across to where Robert was by that chair. And it's just
that
empty.
wasn't great. I mean, I remember not seeing the other dude, but I didn't get the impression that he got away.
Yeah,
I would have rather had him getting up at like her like panning over and him just being like better, just like bailing and that being the story of her just being like fuck. Like that would have told me that story better than him just not being there because the guy next to him dead and then him not being seen at all leads me to believe that he's also dead. Yeah. Like so.
Right, the Robert stuff to what you were saying before, where there's like some clunky world building in the second half of this. I think that's probably the
Firefly stuff was
stuff.
good enough, but again, they had to really quick run through their motivations and things. But I think they did this like it very much just seems like cutscenes that they're doing, and like I can almost see like it go to Letterboxd or like
yeah, kind of yeah. You're not wrong.
Can't remember.
I'm just saying the fact that there's some of those clunky moments, and I still after like I kind of know how it ends and I kind of know how it begins, but I don't really know Last of Us.
You don't know the
overall.
middle bits.
Yeah, and I don't I don't know about the details. Like I don't know really what the Fireflies are at all.
I mean, they kind of explain that.
Well,
in the...
sure, I know now. I'm saying going into
they're
it.
flies that are made of fire.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Like that's
and their leader
I don't
is
know.
their leader.
Just
To bring it
flies of
round
fire.
full circle, their leader is Nathan Fillion as Malcolm Reynolds.
So why didn't they just go to space to avoid the clickers?
Because they follow the book Serenity now.
See, it all comes back around, Troy.
Hmm.
You just got to pay more attention.
It's
Open
like
your mind,
a jerk,
sheep.
but a circle.
Huh. Anyway,
It's the same as every other like survival thing where zombies take over. It's like the government becomes fascist. People have fucking tokens or piece of paper they exchange for food, and you have groups that are like, what? No, fuck you.
So are there any other like keys? I mean, like, what did you think of Ellie? Like, she's a firecracker. I dig that. She's from Game of Thrones. I remember her there.
Lady Mormont.
I'm getting the idea that I'm supposed to not, I don't know, fully like her. Am I supposed to like her like a lot?
mean,
like she's pretty. What I got is that yes, she's an analog to his daughter, but not really. Like
No.
she's almost like a polar opposite.
Yes, and they make that point in the behind the scenes after the episode where like when Joel had to kill Mrs. Adler in front of his daughter Sarah, and Sarah was shaken and scared.
This goes back to my theory of just like what she means when she's like, oh, when she sees him kill somebody, like that's going to protect her. She's like activated, and I'm like, why would you use that word?
Yeah, that was a weird choice
I'm
of
just
words.
like that's such a weird choice of words, and that was the word where I'm just like, wait, are you saying that like, and that love can be actually a very dangerous thing, like unadulterated? And I'm like, okay, so are you saying that like she's like gonna be revealed to be like the queen or like the thing, and like,
and Joel is her first mate,
and by that point, Joel is gonna be like a fierce protector of her, and that's gonna be like the ultimate irony, and it's gonna be like now he's protecting it for the fungus.
That's
like,
one hell of a theory.
Like, it's an insane theory,
and that's all it is.
A
game theory. Sorry, wrong podcast.
I mean, it would be a game.
What was your point? I made a dumb joke. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'm so sorry.
I just farted. Made a fart sound.
Oh, you just made a fart sound. Okay,
That's actually
cool.
what the comedy we should start doing on this podcast more often.
Just fart sounds?
Fart humor. All right, that's enough
a
of that.
horrible one. No, you got to make it good.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Gosh,
I'm
no
sorry.
one wants to see your fucking tepid farts.
My
Jesus.
tepid farts.
They come for our tepid polls.
Oh my god.
So yeah, Troy, any other scenes that really stuck with you or that we should talk about?
Or theories for the future?
I do really like the ending scene. I feel like
Theories.
I guess they had to flash back and show the other soldier that shot his daughter, right? Like when he attacks the he attacks the guy at the end.
soldier.
Yeah, because Joel is now in charge of a small
Yeah.
child, and there's a soldier who's gonna try to kill her.
I always wondered to myself if you don't need to flashback at all.
No, I get what you're saying in theory, that usually this is like a little heavy-handed
But I'm
narrative
undecided
storytelling.
about this one.
No, this one I think was necessary because, like, first of all, it was well done.
Yes.
It's like a very quick single shot, and it's almost indecipherable. You pretty clearly flash back because the setting is a little bit different, but like it's such an eerily reminiscent shot, and they frame it the same way, and it's almost like you don't even imperceptible, and it's like, oh, okay, it's just done better than like what the thing is. It's not like dwelling on it or like slow moing it or doing this weird thing, and it's such a perfect thing for him to be like that. It isn't really. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy where it's just like it's not her that is making him protective. It's that moment that is repeated, and it activates like a primal thing, like he automatically protects her. Now, once he's done that, his brain will justify that action.
Yeah.
Right. And it'll kind of like associate the two, or like make that connection to be like, oh, well, that's just like her. And like, then it starts to perpetuate itself. And it's like, I think that's a part of the storytelling that goes on here, because it's all about this kind of like fungal growth and kind of how does things evolve, and kind of like, why do we have these kind of like these urges, or like, where do we draw the line of control? Who's in control at any given point? And it is like a free will thing, and it's a lot of like it's less a social. It has obviously the social commentary that most zombie stories do, but it also has a very personal one, more identity based and more like free will, destiny based.
I like where you're going with that.
And they lay this on the hand where it actually has a lot of a fantasy premise of the call to adventure, where it's just like, she's like, you have a greater purpose than you would ever imagine. She's like, why does this happen to me? It's just like, why is it me? It's like, no one thought it would be you. But it's like but you're more important than what anyone would ever have thought of you. And I'm
right.
Like,
it's
okay,
like,
well, that's like classic. Like,
it's like Chosen One without beating you over the head with like bad Chosen One stuff.
That was the closest Chosen One stuff in there. And I think that was, again, part of the clunky portion of this that doesn't get really well told. And unfortunately, your Marlene girl is like a bit pivotal portion of this. It's not her at all. She's great. They do great. It's just, it's not great in terms of like that clunkiness. But hopefully that's the end of that kind of clunkiness. And I really didn't bother me in the end. I noticed it, but it wasn't bothering me. The rest of the stuff was good enough to keep me going. Now, if it sloshes over the next couple episodes, it'd be different. But it ended in a good spot. I loved the 80s music is trouble. The little kind of, I could tell that these are kind of like, it must be part of the gameplay of clues. Like, when she looks like it, she flips through a thing. I feel like I can see that kind of stuff. Like, she flips through a book, sees a note, and it's like has an X, and it's like a puzzle. Like, is that a thing?
Yeah, I don't remember. A lot of the beginning of the game kind of goes by so quick, and then the middle and ending bits are so poignant in my brain that the beginning kind of fades to the back of my memory. So I should fucking rewatch that fucking game. I don't remember that being a puzzle necessarily, or a very poignant thing necessarily. But goddamn, did it make for good television? And then you go out on the fucking Depeche Mode.
The Depeche Mode song was dope. I wasn't totally familiar with that song. I like that I watched it with subtitles, and it told me that it was Depeche Mode, because I'm just like, ooh, right there. It's 80s. Yeah, that means trouble.
Yep.
And that was cool. I dug that a lot.
I didn't watch it with subtitles and didn't know what song it was, so I was just sort of like, I was like, contextually, I know that this is an 80s song.
I hear a synthesizer.
I was like, if it's not an 80s song, this scene's useless.
That actually, when she cracks the code, is my favorite scene with her. She's like,
it shows you that she's very smart.
She's like, code cracked.
Yeah.
And she's like giving the finger or some shit. I don't know.
Yeah,
like,
she's very.
I dug her there. I dug her there.
She's very much like that, and
and when she does like 1, 2, 3, 4, then just 9 and 10 is just her fucking the bird.
Fuck
the bird.
You.
Yeah, I just I appreciate
fucking.
That.
Yeah.
Man, that's always what I wanted to say. Like, I was already there with her, and I was like, oh yeah, good. Say that.
It's always it's a really fine line when you have a young actor and you have them be like, you have to be kind of like spunky and annoying and mean and like cynical, and also the audience has to like you. And those three are really hard to all put together.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. I think she did a good job of playing a realistic little badass.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Spunk is like, but I missed a couple of things. Come on, she's literally the orphan.
Yeah.
Like, she's literally the orphan. Like, and Marlene is somehow, like, she wasn't her mother, but the Fireflies placed her there. I didn't get that or why. I guess, like, she was, when they rescued her at some point, she was a kid, and they put her into the military schools, and then apparently somehow they came across her. I don't know why.
So was there supposed to be like a middle, like, just Ellie episode? Like, was that supposed to be the second half of this, or
I don't know. Maybe they were going to use this in a flashback or something, or maybe they were going to tell this later, or maybe they'll plan to come back to it.
Yeah.
But my hope is that they'll fill in some of that blank. But yeah, otherwise, what we just end basically with them just killing the guard and running out, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
so
they kill the guard, and then they discover that Ellie, according to the infection readers, is infected. And then she has to very quickly go on the defensive, like, no, I'm not infected. This bite is, like, weeks old, and I haven't turned. Like, I'm fine. You need to believe me. And Tess is like, nah, I'll put a fucking bullet in your head right now, bitch. Like, let's get the fuck out of here. Because she's very much not about to take that chance.
But according to the preview, it seems like she's brought on by the next episode.
I mean, yeah, spoiler alert, she keeps going. They don't kill the second main character.
Well, how do I know?
She's in the cover art.
The second season's called Even Less of Us.
Also,
fewer of us.
we were talking about second season. So if the series does well, which I would like to point out, it is the second biggest premiere for HBO since 2010. The first being House of the Dragon.
Not Velma?
No, not Velma.
Huh.
And the showrunner, whose name I literally just had, Craig Mazin.
That do compared to She-Hulk? So, looks like old D is 2 and 2.
So Craig Mazin has said that if season 1 does well, they will consider doing a season 2. However, the season 1 is just the first game, and the first game had a DLC expansion at the end of it.
Okay.
So that is going to be season 1. And it's going to be 9 episodes. And if it does get picked up for season 2, he's going to be great. We're doing the second game, and as soon as we run out of source material, that's it. We're done. I'm not milking this. So huge fucking respect to Craig Mazin. I don't know if HBO necessarily wants him to do that if they get another cash cow on their hands. However, I don't think you can go past the source material without.
I bet they'll make another game before he finishes.
I was going to ask. What was the time frame between the last 2 games? And
Last of Us Part 2, I think, came out 2021, maybe 22.
Mm-hmm.
It came out very recently, and that was basically almost 10 years between 1 and 2.
Really?
Yeah, because
So the
number
first
1
one's
was
that old?
2013. Game
Oh,
came
yeah,
out in
'cause that makes
2013.
sense, yeah.
And the second game just came out very recently.
Could
like
one
last
come
year or
out?
two.
What about 5 years? What if it came out 5 years later?
I don't think it would be the quality we want it to be if it comes out that quickly. But, I mean, especially with the fucking writer and game director being the co-showrunner of this HBO series, he doesn't have a whole lot of time to be working on Last of Us Part 3 at the moment. I mean, not to say it's not in development. I'm sure it's happening because Sony, which owns Naughty Dog that makes these games, they're definitely doing that thing where they're like, hey, we want you to print more money. Please make another fucking game. Especially after the fucking review storm that was Last of Us Part 2.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus Christ.
I'm wondering.
You know who we're bringing in? Frank Darabont.
I don't know who that is.
Oh.
Was he a bad comic writer?
No, he was the original director for The Walking Dead.
Oh, okay.
The
Well, back when it was
showrunner.
really, really good for the first, 6 episodes.
Until they screwed him over and he won all that money back later. The Walking Dead is for the AMC side of Walking Dead is the dumbest financial decisions
Yep.
ever.
Yep.
Ever.
I did enjoy the Walking Dead up until fucking I don't know, season 5 or 6. I just kind of gave up, and then I found out the last season is 11. They fucking went for 6 or 7 more seasons after I stopped
I thought it was
watching.
even more than that.
And here's here's the thing. There's 11 seasons, but those are old by midway through. It started out with like 6 episodes, then they kind of like doubled it, right? Like 12.
Yeah, season
And
2
that
I think
was
was 12.
and now this is in the golden era of television, right?
Yeah, this is like when Breaking Bad's on the air.
This is like this is literally the heart of it. So the gold standard was like 8 to 12 episodes in that span. Like basically, I think it started at 12, and then it goes there. They, by the end of it, they just kept pushing it out. Those seasons are like 22, 24 episode seasons.
They're like 90s sitcom length.
Full hours, double-sized episodes sometimes, extended like extras episodes. There's all kinds of content.
Jesus Christ.
It's none of it is relevant.
I remember them not necessarily inventing, but maybe pioneering the fucking mid-season finale, where they would basically just cut the season in half and pretend it was like a big cliffhanger, and then they're like, "We're back in 3 months, everybody."
They did that with Lost early on, yeah.
Lost, yeah. But like, I was like, "What are you doing? Why are you doing a mid-season finale? 12 episodes in, just fucking cut it, make a new season."
And the ending, you were very surprised who made it out alive and who died in Walking Dead. Finale?
No one died. No, it was.
You'll be surprised, Troy. It turns out all the characters that get paid a lot of money to be in the episodes, they wouldn't kill them off.
Oh, and it's not even over because they do have like Rick and Michonne movies planned.
That's what I was
Daryl
referencing.
show coming out,
And there's a governor thing planned.
There's a Negan.
And my favorite Tekken character.
And Beth. Not Beth. But Negan and the character Maggie, who is the wife, or let's rather say widow of the person that Negan bashed to death. Like, and it's like, you're okay.
I literally don't understand what AMC's doing.
Just stop. And I love that J.D. Morgan and the actress who plays Maggie, I forget her name, but she's really good. They're just like, fine, I'll take your goddamn money. Like, whatever. Like, I mean, they're just going to do it. They're going to, they must have settled some things in their contract, I hope, to do some good stuff. But, like, holy crap.
What I'm picking up on is that Negan's show or movie or whatever he's getting is not him fighting characters from Tekken.
Lauren Cohen.
It is not Lauren Cohen.
Gotcha.
She's great.
She is great. I've seen her in a lot of other things now that I say her name out loud. I was like, oh shit, I know that name.
She's in Supernatural. I love doing that.
All
right, I'm done with this show for right now, but I can't wait for next week.
Yeah, Walking Dead ran for 12 years, Troy. 12 years. Jesus Christ.
365 days.
I don't...
3 leap years in that?
Fuck you.
At least.
Fucking ridiculous. Anyway, The Walking Dead is over and done with and dead, so we can focus on the new awesome horror survival TV series, The Last
In
of
your
Us.
face, millennials.
Yeah!
Wait a minute. It was 2013. Hold on.
Anyway,
This is for us, Gen Z.
That concludes our coverage of
Us, huh?
That concludes our coverage
People like me.
of the pilot of The Last of Us on HBO. Please like and subscribe, all that fun stuff. And join us next week when we discuss episode 2. Hooray! Yay! Are you ready? Great. Awesome. I've been Jeff. You've been Troy. You've been D. Good night, everybody.
You've been Jeff.
That was an efficient end. I did a good job.
Well, I mean, now you've ruined it.
It's still efficient.
I mean, yeah, but it was efficient, but now you're continuing, so it's not really the ending, is it?
No, I'm just patting myself on the back.
Why don't we just agree to disagree?
As far as you guys know, I cut this out. No one can hear it.
Yeah, I absolutely.
Are you saying we exist possibly in a vacuum? And if we existed in that vacuum, did we ever truly exist?
So we're not watching Velma next week.
I'm not high enough for this conversation.
Let's get it.